There is a country roughly the size of New Jersey, surrounded on nearly every side by hostile neighbors since the first day of its existence, that has produced some of the most iconic, most copied, and most feared weapons in the history of modern warfare. Israel did not inherit a military tradition. It built one from scratch, under fire, out of necessity, and what came out of that crucible was a weapons industry that today exports to over 90 countries and has shaped the way soldiers, police officers, and civilians around the world think about firearms. This is not just a list of guns. This is the story of a nation that had to invent its own survival, one weapon at a time. Today we are going through every single firearm ever produced by Israel Weapons Industries, from the most iconic submachine gun in history to rocket launchers that changed the doctrine of the United States Marine Corps. We start where Israel's weapons legacy truly begins, with a weapon so iconic that its silhouette alone is instantly recognizable to billions of people who have never held a firearm in their lives. The Uzi submachine gun was designed by Lieutenant Uziel Gal of the Israel Defense Forces, a man who began working on this design shortly after Israeli independence in 1948, with the weapon officially adopted by the IDF in 1954. What made the Uzi revolutionary was not just its compactness, but the engineering solution that made that compactness possible: a telescoping wraparound bolt that surrounds the rear of the barrel at the moment of firing, allowing a 10-inch barrel to sit inside a receiver just 18 inches long overall. This was a genuinely new idea, and it worked so well that it was copied, adapted, and imitated by weapons designers across the world for the next 5 decades. More than 10 million Uzi submachine guns were produced across all variants, and the weapon was exported to over 90 countries, making it one of the most widely distributed military firearms in human history. The world did not fully understand the scale of what Israel had created until 1981, when United States Secret Service agents were photographed brandishing the Uzi during the assassination attempt on President Ronald Reagan, broadcasting its existence to every television screen on the planet. From that moment, the Uzi was not just a weapon, it was a symbol. I did not stop there. The Mini Uzi, introduced in 1980, scaled the original design down to just 14 inches overall, while pushing the cyclic rate to approximately 950 rounds per minute, a direct consequence of the shorter bolt travel distance. Then came something even more extreme: the Micro Uzi, which compressed the concept further to just 9.8 inches of overall length and a cyclic rate of approximately 1,200 rounds per minute. One of the highest rates of fire of any production submachine gun ever fielded by any military or security service in the world. For the American civilian market in the 1980s, IWI produced the Uzi carbine, semi-automatic variant with a 16-inch barrel that complied with ATF barrel length regulations while retaining the iconic profile that had made the design famous. Then, decades later, IWI revisited the concept entirely with the Uzi Pro, introduced around 2010, modernizing the original with polymer side panels, a full-length Picatinny top rail, and side rails for accessories, bringing a 1950s icon into full compatibility with 21st century equipment. The Uzi Pro SB added a side-folding stabilizing brace to that platform, giving security details a more stable shooting configuration without sacrificing compactness. And finally, IWI applied the entire Uzi submachine gun concept to its modern bullpup platform with the X95 SMG, a 9mm pistol-caliber bullpup variant built on the X95 rifle chassis, maintaining the same manual of arms as the rifle version to simplify training for units operating both configurations simultaneously. Now we move to handguns, and we begin with a collaboration that produced one of the smoothest shooting service pistols of its era. The Jericho 941 was introduced in 1990, developed jointly between IWI and Italian manufacturer Tanfoglio, drawing on the legendary CZ-75 double-action design and chambered initially in the then-novel .41 Action Express cartridge alongside the standard 9mm. Its steel frame construction gives the Jericho a loaded weight exceeding 38 ounces, which significantly dampens felt recoil and is the primary reason the weapon earned a reputation for smooth, controllable shooting that persists to this day. IWI later evolved the platform with the Jericho Enhanced, replacing the steel frame with a polymer frame to reduce carry weight while retaining the proven internal components and adding modernized grip texturing for better retention under stress. But when people think of Israeli handguns, one name eclipses everything else. The Desert Eagle was originally designed by Magnum Research in Minnesota in 1979, but it has been manufactured by IWI in Israel for most of its production history. And what makes it mechanically unique among semi-automatic pistols is its gas-operated rotating bolt, a mechanism borrowed from rifles rather than handguns. In .50 AE, the Desert Eagle generates approximately 1,500 foot-pounds of muzzle energy, a figure comparable to many rifle cartridges, making it one of the most powerful semi-automatic pistols ever produced for commercial sale. It is a weapon that exists at the boundary between handgun and something else entirely. Alongside the Desert Eagle, IWI produced the Barak SP-21, a short-lived pistol featuring a unique rotating barrel lockup system and advanced passive safety mechanisms, produced in limited numbers and rarely seen outside Israel. Then came IWI's most modern handgun platform, the Masada, announced around 2018 and entering production circa 2020, a modular striker-fired polymer pistol engineered with an exceptionally low-bore axis to minimize muzzle rise during rapid fire. The Masada's design was licensed to Palmetto State Armory in the United States, where it is produced as the Dagger, a deliberate strategy by IWI to expand market reach through manufacturing partnerships rather than direct export alone. The Masada tactical variant ships from the factory with a threaded barrel and suppressor height night sights, requiring no aftermarket modification whatsoever for suppressor use. The Masada Slim is a single-stack compact variant optimized for concealed carry, offering a significantly reduced width profile compared to the standard double-stack configuration. IWI also produced two pistol-classified civilian variants of the Uzi platform. The Uzi pistol, a semi-automatic stockless version that retained the iconic receiver profile and folding magazine grip, and the Uzi Pro pistol, which modernized that concept with a Picatinny top rail, side accessory rails, and updated ergonomics in an extremely compact package. Now we come to the heart of IWI's catalog and perhaps the most consequential chapter in the company's history: the assault rifles. And to understand them, you need to understand a single moment in 1967. During the Six-Day War, IDF commanders made a discovery that would embarrass Israeli procurement officials for years afterward. Their own soldiers, when given the choice, were abandoning their issued weapons and picking up captured AK-47s from the battlefield. The message was unambiguous. Something had to change. The response was the Galil assault rifle, developed between 1967 and 1972 by Yisrael Galili and Yaakov Lior. Its action borrowed heavily from the Finnish Valmet RK-62, itself a refined AK derivative, giving the Galil the sand and mud resistance that Middle Eastern combat demanded. The standard Galil arm entered IDF service in 1972 and was eventually produced in quantities exceeding 400,000 units across all variants. It is chambered in 5.56 by 45 mm NATO, and it became famous for a feature that says more about soldiers than any tactical specification ever could. A bottle opener built into the folding bipod, added after soldiers were repeatedly breaking their rifles trying to pry off beer and soda bottle caps in the field. IWI developed the Galil family extensively across multiple configurations. The Galil SAR shortened the barrel to 13 inches for paratroopers and armored vehicle crews who needed a full-caliber rifle in the tightest possible package. The Galil MIR Micro took that concept further still, reducing barrel length to just 8 inches and pushing cyclic rate to approximately 950 rounds per minute, making it one of the most compact assault rifles fielded by any military in the 1970s. The MGAL was a unique law enforcement variant chambered in .30 carbine rather than a rifle cartridge, specifically designed to reduce over-penetration risk in dense Israeli urban environments. The Hadar II was a semi-automatic civilian export version, produced primarily for the American market in the late 1980s and early 1990s, featuring wooden furniture and a thumbhole stock to satisfy import regulations. Then, in the 2000s, IWI modernized the entire lineage with the Galil Ace series, adding polymer furniture, full-length Picatinny rails, and ambidextrous controls, while retaining the proven rotating bolt that had made the original reliable. The Galil Ace 32, chambered in 7.62 by 39 mm Soviet, was engineered specifically for export markets where AK ammunition logistics were already established, finding significant adoption across Latin America and Africa. The Galil Ace 52 in 7.62 by 51 mm NATO extended effective engagement range beyond 600 meters and was officially adopted by the Colombian Armed Forces, among others. The Galil AC Gen 2 then refined every detail further, introducing a full-length top Picatinny rail and fully ambidextrous bolt release, charging handle, and fire selector, the most polished iteration of a design lineage spanning more than 5 decades. But Israel was not finished, reinventing the rifle. In the late 1990s, IWI began development of something entirely different in concept. A bullpup rifle that would eventually replace the M16 and M4 in IDF service. The Tavor TAR-21 was officially adopted by the Israel Defense Forces in 2009 after a decade-long evaluation process. Its bullpup configuration positions the action behind the trigger group, allowing an 18-inch barrel to be housed in an overall package just 28 inches long, shorter than most conventional rifles with 14-inch barrels. The CTAR-21 compact variant reduced overall length even further while retaining that bullpup barrel advantage, and became particularly popular with Sayeret Special Forces units and Merkava tank crews who needed maximum firepower in minimum space. The Star-21 sharpshooter variant added a folding bipod, a heavier, longer barrel, and a dedicated optic rail to push accurate fire out to 600 meters while preserving the bullpup's inherent compactness. In 2013, the Tavor SAR entered the American civilian market imported by IWI US and became one of the best-selling semi-automatic rifles in the United States within its very first year of availability. Then, around 2016, IWI introduced the Tavor X95, addressing the TAR-21's most frequently criticized features by relocating the charging handle beneath the optic rail and redesigning the trigger group to improve pull weight and reset feel. The X95 subsequently replaced the TAR-21 as the IDF's standard-issue rifle, with full fielding progressing through the late 2000s and 10s across all combat branches of the Israeli military. In 2018 came the Tavor 7, which brought the entire bullpup concept into 7.62 by 51 mm NATO, achieving a total package length of just 28 inches despite firing a full-power battle rifle cartridge, something that would have been nearly impossible to engineer in a conventional layout. Then, in a move that surprised many observers, IWI unveiled the Carmel around 2019, deliberately stepping away from the bullpup philosophy entirely, with a conventional layout offering modular barrel lengths, multiple caliber options, and fully ambidextrous controls, a signal that IWI was thinking about global export markets as much as IDF requirements. IWI also developed the ARAD, a short-stroke gas piston AR-15 platform rifle designed to offer cleaner operation than direct impingement systems, while maintaining the familiar AR ergonomics that dominate the global tactical market, offered in both 5.56 by 45 mm and a 7.62 by 51 mm AR-10 pattern configuration. And for the American domestic market specifically, IWI-US in Middletown, Pennsylvania, produced the Zion 15, the company's first domestically manufactured AR-15, and the Zion 25, an AR-10 pattern rifle in 7.62 by 51 mm NATO for long-range civilian and law enforcement use. Moving now to the precision end of the spectrum. The Galatz, whose name derives from the Hebrew acronym for sniper rifle, is a semi-automatic 7.62 by 51 mm NATO precision variant built directly on the Galil platform, capable of consistent accuracy out to 600 meters. It was the standard sniper tool of IDF marksmen through the 1980s and 1990s and was exported to several Latin American and African militaries seeking a proven semi-automatic precision rifle. For longer-range requirements, IIWI developed the Dayan .338, a bolt-action sniper rifle chambered in .338 Lapua Magnum, a cartridge capable of delivering lethal, accurate fire beyond 1,500 meters in the hands of a trained shooter, designed from the outset for both military long-range interdiction and law enforcement counter-sniper roles, with a fully adjustable chassis and broad compatibility with suppressors and optic systems. Now to sustained firepower. Israel's relationship with the machine gun begins with a failure. The Dror was Israel's first domestically produced light machine gun, adopted in the early 1950s and based on the American Johnson M 1941, featuring an unusual side-mounted rotary magazine and a recoil-operated rather than gas-operated mechanism. It proved deeply unreliable in the sandy conditions of the Middle East and was phased out rapidly. But that failure had a direct consequence. It forced Israeli engineers to think harder about what a machine gun for their environment actually needed to be. The answer, decades later, was the Negev. The Negev 5.56 by 45 mm NATO light machine gun entered IDF service in 1997, following a development program driven by specific combat experience in Lebanon, where the heavier MAG machine gun was deemed too cumbersome for infantry squads operating in close terrain. The Negev's most tactically significant feature is its dual-feed system, capable of accepting both disintegrating link belt ammunition and standard Stanag box magazines, giving squad leaders maximum logistical flexibility in any operational environment. The Negev Commando then shortened that platform substantially for paratroopers and special forces, maintaining the full belt-fed capability and high rate of fire in one of the most compact light machine gun packages available to any military in the world. Still in the realm of sustained fire, but shifting to a very different type of weapon. The Tavor TS-12 is a bullpup semi-automatic shotgun featuring 3 independent rotary magazine tubes, each holding 5 rounds of 12-gauge ammunition, providing a total capacity of 15 plus 1 rounds without reloading, a figure that surpasses most conventional semi-automatic shotgun designs by a significant margin. It entered the American market around 2019 and generated immediate attention for both its futuristic aesthetic and the practical ability to rotate between 3-tube magazines during a pause in firing. Alongside it, IWI produces the Mafio 12, a purpose-built tactical breaching shotgun with an extremely short pump-action configuration, designed exclusively for the dynamic entry role where defeating hinges, locks, and doors reliably is more operationally critical than any consideration of range. And then there is the Timberwolf, IWI's pump-action rifle chambered in powerful Magnum cartridges, including .357 Magnum and .44 Magnum, designed for the civilian hunting and sport shooting market as a lightweight, fast-cycling alternative to bolt-action designs for hunters who value speed of follow-up shots. Rounding out the IWI catalog at the heavier end of the spectrum, the GL-40 is a 40 by 46 mm underbarrel grenade launcher designed to attach directly to the Tavor and Galil ACE platforms, featuring a side-opening breech that accommodates longer than standard specialized munitions that traditional M203-style launchers simply cannot accept, giving IDF soldiers access to a broader range of grenade types without changing platforms. And we close where Israeli weapons engineering has perhaps had its most lasting global impact. The B-300 is an 82 mm reusable shoulder-fired rocket launcher developed in the 1970s, capable of defeating contemporary armored vehicles and fortifications. And it is the direct ancestor of the American Small W rocket launcher adopted by the United States Marine Corps in 1984. Israel designed a rocket launcher so effective that the world's most powerful military bought the concept and put it in the hands of its Marines. And finally, the Shipon, IWI's most advanced rocket system, incorporating a sophisticated fire control unit with day and night optics capable of engaging armored vehicles, fortifications, and personnel targets with different warhead types, representing the full maturity of a weapons development tradition that began with a nation that had nothing and built everything. From the Uzi to the Shipon, from a country that in 1948 had soldiers picking up other people's weapons because they had none of their own, to one of the most sophisticated and prolific small arms exporters on the planet. That is the story of Israel weapons industries. And that is what it looks like when necessity becomes mastery.